Okay, maybe we'll give it a start and people can join in as we are progressing. So welcome everyone, welcome to the Ask Me Anything webinar series being organized by Entrepreneurship Topic Group from euRobotics. Today with us we have Dr. Michael Suppa from Roboception. So this is fourth in the series of the Ask Me Anything or the AMA webinar series that we have been organizing for the past few months. So before I go on and introduce the guest speaker for today, I'll pass it over to Oliver to make an introduction about the topic group, Entrepreneurship Topic Group, and what we do as part of that. Off to you, Oliver.
Thank you, Radhika. Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank you for the word. So the topic group for entrepreneurship in relations to euRobotics is a small group where we are working with various efforts and in various ways to promote entrepreneurship in robotics in Europe. We are active in the yearly Entrepreneurship Award at the ERF, and also the Ask Me Anything webinars is a series of activities that we hope will inspire potential new robotic entrepreneurs and maybe also give information to robotic entrepreneurs who are just starting out. All of that with the purpose of promoting this overall topic of entrepreneurship in robotics in Europe. Everyone is very welcome to join our topic group and to reach out to one of us or to contact us via euRobotics. And to be part in the organization behind this, promoting this very important topic. Other than that, I just want to say that I've been looking forward to Michael's presentation today. So yeah, I think that was it.
Thank you. Thanks, Oliver. At least to reiterate what Oliver said, I joined the group about a year or 1.5 years ago, and I've been enjoying contributing to the topic of entrepreneurship. So you're more than welcome to contact Oliver or one of us if you'd like to see what's happening there. So welcome, Michael. Thanks for agreeing to do a presentation today. So Dr. Michael Suppa is the CEO and co-founder of Roboception. Roboception is a Munich-based startup company. They are providing comprehensive 3D perception solutions for robotic applications. So Michael also holds a doctoral degree from University of Hannover in Germany. And he worked in various roles at German Aerospace Center, DLR. He was appointed as the head of perception and cognition at DLR in 2009, and later on went ahead to spin out Roboception in 2015. So today, Michael will be presenting about his journey of transitioning from heading a team at DLR to heading a company, Roboception, and what they do at Roboception. So off to you, Michael, and we are looking forward to listening to your story.
Yeah, thank you very much, Radhika, for the introduction, and also to Oliver and Geoff for inviting me for today. I'm starting to share my screen now so that you can also see our journey. So yeah, as Radhika already said, I'm telling you a little bit about our journey with Roboception here. So as a starting point, Radhika said already, so I started as a researcher at the German Aerospace Center. I have a degree in electrical engineering, a PhD in mechanical, and basically, yeah, I have been working in the perception field in all my professional career for different applications at German Aerospace Center for space applications, as well as for terrestrial things such as mobile robots and other systems. So The key stake was always that the sensory perception is an essential skill for modern technical systems that we've been following from the DLR side, from tactile perception to auditory perception and also visual perception. And this was basically a key stake that we developed. The driving force for that is now that we are focusing also on the roboception side, more just on the visual channel, that this is one of the predominant senses that humans have and use it for detecting objects, orienting themselves in the 3D world, and basically knowing where we are. This is for humans quite simple, for a robotic system quite difficult. Especially coming from a time where we mostly had 2D vision without the depth dimension, which is usually very important for all kinds of robotic applications, because you want to have the distance to the object, you want to know where it exactly is in space. And also when you're going to more unstructured environments, not the classical industrial field, then this plays an important role. This led us in 2015 to found Roboception as a spin-off from the German Aerospace Center. And then talking now a little bit from the foundations to the point where we are now. If you have questions, there's a lot of time to ask them afterwards. So yeah, and as it is an Ask Me Anything, you can ask anything. So that basically, I hope I'm giving you the right trigger points to also have some questions in the end. Yeah, Roboception, the company name, each baby needs to have a name. So it's a combination of robotics and perception, and we fused that together. Actually, we've been quite surprised at the time that this was a brand we could use that was not given or not granted to anyone else. The company was founded with two former employees from the Institute of Robotics. So basically, we are a DLR spin-off. And we focus purely on 3D sensor technology, mostly on the stereo vision channel, and based our company here in Munich. So the idea was more or less to go from pixel to action using perception. So we wanted to enable robotic systems to perceive the environment, to make robots more smart and more flexible in classical domains, but also in more unstructured domains such as service robotics. Of course, when you start a company, you have an idea, you want to move forward, then you need to have money. So someone has to finance it. So I'm giving you also some insights today, not only from the funding idea, but also moving forward to how we found the right investor for us and how the story went on, because the best idea is not working in a commercial sense if you don't have anyone supporting you on the technical and also financial side. Yeah, the starting point for us was that we basically said, what is the classical problem we have at the moment, especially in industrial automation? Scenarios were quite fixed. You had feeders, you had mechanical devices. And when I started my career, everybody was saying no sensor is a good sensor, which basically reduced the flexibility to what you can do in mechanics. And starting to move forward and bringing more flexibility in robotic application, the perception of parts, different parts, the possibility to change parts in the production, to work with multiple scenarios. That's really the benefit of a robotic system. So the robot is a flexible tool, but if it's bound by the mechanics, it can't really perform as flexible as it could. So giving the robots eyes and brains is basically the idea to make the whole production processes. And we started in a domain that already is an existing market, such as industrial automation, but we also looked into the logistics domain and recently into the lab automation, because these are all domains that have a high automation demand. And this basically was the foundation for us to move forward. You can see that the robot here is doing a lot of different tasks. Many of them are supported by vision. And here the customer has like 80 different parts that are running through the same machine. So this is really the challenge that we solved here together with the customer, actually in Denmark, very close to where you are, Oliver. So that's actually one of our first customers that we worked with in that domain. Yeah. telling you a little bit about the milestones. So what are our achievements so far and how did we get where we are right now? So this is a brief overview on how we started. So I already said that we founded the company in 2015. We started with a strategic investment. So we talked to 𝐀𝐠𝐞𝐧𝐝𝐚 Germany, or Robots at that time, who took over the investment role. And this was done in terms of contracts, as 𝐀𝐶𝐾 at that time didn't have any venture arm that was able to support us on that end. So we started with a strategic mission, bringing eyes and brains to robots, making robots flexible, mostly on the 𝐾𝐶 end. This was our starting point. We started that with a contract. Then in 2017, we launched our first product, which was the first 3D sensor with onboard computing. With a partner from us, we developed a project-specific solution for the piece picking system with 1,000 picks per hour that was already into logistics domain. And then we continued our portfolio by bringing the first bundle vision gripper together with the company Schmalz, because the task is usually solved in between the eyes and the brains and the gripper. So this is what we basically supported here. And starting then also in the middle of the pandemic, we started with our first applied AI solution with a fully automatic cloud-based training. So in this case, we are generating synthetic data to protect objects without any on-site recording. We continued our bundling strategy with a two-finger gripper here with the company Schunk, and then started also to expand our sales network. So sales is a very important thing for a small company. So in the beginning, you have investment capital, but at some point you have to live from what you're building. And this is a key challenge for all new companies. So we started, our approach was not to build basically area sales, but work with partners here. So we are working together with Matrix Vision and Basler in different times to help us to bring our products to the customer on a sales perspective. And then on the technology side, we added an important thing for integration that customers can actually deploy their own software to our products. We increase our perception, sensory profilement, and also building more partner toolkits together with 𝐾𝐶𝐾 for integrators to make it much easier. So we are focusing at Roboception on the technological edge, so that we are always the ones that are first in class on the technology side and develop the sales and the ecosystem around that. So this is basically the story that we went for. Telling a little bit about the beginning, you can see that in that slide. So this shows you a little bit that we went a bit of an uncommon way, because we had a strategic investment quite early in the process. We founded in 2015, and also in 2015, we got the investment from the 𝐾𝐶𝐾 side, but it was given as a contract. So here it was not the classical VC story that you may call with Series A, B, seed, and so on, but we got a development contract to develop our first product. Yeah, we started that directly from founding the company. We went through different technologies. We had a very early phase where we collaborated with research partners. So we are using actually our research network to test our products in the very beginning, because customer feedback is quite important. Changed a lot based on this feedback that we got. Set up the product, developed the product, and set up a series production, which was another half year, which really was a new learning to me, how difficult it can be to produce something and to set up a production for a technological product to make sure that it's also available and then not people in your office steering it together piece by piece. So that was something that we did in the early phase. We were focusing on the hardware side in the beginning and then moving more into the software side. So we started with a sensor and then enriched that with more and more software modules to start into the software business. Yeah, team is important. So here you have a quick overview on the team. So we did our first hire actually in 2015. We started from being founders to being employers. So that's an important shift in life when you're responsible for yourself, instead of later being responsible for a team. I had this experience from the DLR side already, but this was on a very different business constraints as we have it now. Yeah, so started our first hire 2015. The first person left us in 2017, and we also had our 10th hire in 2017. So the team was growing. But what is important is that everyone counts in the startup. So it's not like in a corporate or so, where you have a dedicated role and you basically do what you're supposed to. In the startup, everybody counts, and sometimes you have to switch roles a bit and do what's needed. So that's something which is very important when you hire. And this is also something that we learned, that not really everybody is made for that, but that's also a great opportunity to develop. So basically, that's how we set up the team, to make sure that we have people that are able to adapt to situations. And at the moment, you can see our team. And also we were very flexible on the working conditions. Also during pandemic, we have our first office dog now. So there's a lot of things you can do in your own company, which are maybe difficult in bigger ones, but it comes at a cost. You have to show a lot of flexibility to many things. So the team is important, everyone counts. And this just gives you a rough overview that you don't have the time to work with people that don't fit. Basically, there's no time for it. Overview on the sales side. I already mentioned that we started with direct sales. It's really difficult if you start at a small company. And based on these experiences, we started to build up a ecosystem partnership network. So we basically made sure that we did some sales on the KUKA side or through the KUKA side as our investor. But of course, there's two worlds that crash together. You have an innovative product and you have a classical industrial company. So I will also say a little bit more about that, how this really worked out. So this is the way we started. Scaling the business, you have to find basically partners that work with you. So that's always helpful, because you don't have enough people and you don't have enough money to do everything on your own. So you really have to find the right partner network to move forward. So we started to work with some direct sales. We worked through KUKA. We qualified for Universal Robots. So we had different robot manufacturers that we basically supported. Same with the fruit core horse robot. We worked in the research domain with Next and also Franca Emica. So we are certified on some of the robotic partners that we have that help us to carry the brand also to the customers. Then we started, as I said, in 2021 with distribution partnerships with Basler and Matrix Vision. Here we had to change a little bit the way the systems look. So we started with private labeling at that case, because actually salespeople from other companies can sell branded products, but not foreign products. So you had to be very careful here to find the right way that your partners think that it's their own product and they're good in selling it. So that's the regular distribution. And then we started the product partnerships with solution components. So we worked into larger solutions with big integrators, which have part of our software and our hardware in their systems. And we also started the product bundling with 𝐀𝐠𝐞𝐧𝐝𝐚 here. So that's a lot of different things that we started here in that space. The key innovations. So basically, I mentioned our first innovation was this 3D sensor with the onboard computing that allowed us to run software on the sensor as a smart sensor that we launched in 2017. Based on a customer project, we launched our first RC Reason product, which was for commissioning. So it was a logistics product for picking unknown items and dropping them. Then we moved more in the direction of using machine learning as well. So we have our first product for the machine tending that we are using here. So basically that is something that we started in 2020. And then later on in the process, we said that it's always important that customers can also do tiny little things and change them. So we figured out that's always a problem. You have a project and there's a little bit of software that's needed. That's not part of the product. That's not part of the robot controller software, and where to put it. So basically added a so-called user space, a Docker deployment on our system so that customers can add their own piece of code for integration purposes to the ERP, to the robot controller, or just realize additional functionalities. We've also seen that our current system is limited in terms of the resolution. So the standard RC has 1 or 2 megapixels. We now moved into projects where we have very tiny parts in large bins. So this is why we expanded the portfolio to a 12 megapixel sensor running with the same software modules. And this is basically the key innovations that we brought to market. So on the hardware side, on the software side, and basically aiming for vision solutions for flexible production. An important topic that we figured out is the ease of use of systems. So most of our customers are not vision experts. If you have like 3D vision expertise, of course, any 3D system is a piece of cake for you, but most integrators and most people in the factories, they don't work with that, or they don't have the expertise. So we found a way here with our web GUI to make sure that non-vision experts can get access to our images, to our visual way of presenting the results in a very easy way. So you can access our systems with the web GUI here. This also helped us in doing the private label, because it's just another CSS file that you see when you run it through our partner network. So it's very easy to use. Customers can use it without specific vision expertise. Of course, technical expertise is always needed for a technical system, but not in this sense. So basically, people are get an easy access. And it's very important that something like this existing. This is about the USP, and the price is never the USP that you should bring as in the first line for your product. So you have to have technical USPs or also business related USPs, but not the price. This is an example how we used basically our customer projects also to derive products from it. So in this case, we worked together with a large logistics integrator, TGW. It was a collaboration project we did in the beginning. We supplied the sensor and a piece of software to their overall picking system. And based on that, we were able to also launch a product on our end. So this is basically something that we can really be to make sure that we are actually using the technology that we develop in projects also for our own product portfolio. Because you need to have products to scale. Project and engineering helps you once, but you need to make sure that you're following the path, and then also using the projects that you have to derive products from it. This is an example where we did this. Yeah, coming to the challenges and lessons learned. So first of all, it's about the team. So investors invest in the team. People are investing in the team, because in the beginning you have not much more than the team. So this is why there's some decisions you have to take about being a founder or being an employee. I already said that it's important that everyone counts in a startup. So you really need to make sure that the people that you're hiring are flexible enough to also go the changes that your company has. So in the beginning, you have an idea where you go, but it's not clear that this is always the path to be followed. People will have multiple roles in the beginning. And you need to have people that are able to solve problems instead of delegating problems to other colleagues. So that may not be existing in your case. So that's very important here, that you have people that are flexible in the mind to be working under a bit of an uncertainty, also a bit under changing conditions. Hierarchies don't help you in the beginning, because the same as your business, it has to be developed. You're in an uncertain way. So here you have to be very sure that what you start from the beginning, that you can also do this in the end. Lessons learned, you have to find the right people that are flexible enough. And you have to make sure that besides changing topics, everybody is still clear about what kind of common goal you're following to build the team in a proper way. Second is the right investor. So we started with a strategic investment, and this is a decision that you have to do very early in the process, which path you want to go. If you want to go with strategic investors, or if you go with venture capital. On the strategic side, usually when you're starting in the tech, it's easier because they basically understand the technology. They basically have also maybe more patience with the technology, but you may have more constraints later in the market because the strategic investor, as the name says, has a strategic interest. So basically, there is something beyond the technology that they are interested. If you're thinking the sales team of the investor makes sense, right? You have a company that has 2,000 salespeople, then you can use them. Always keep in mind that they have been selling different products before. So it's very important to know how to access the sales teams of your investor and to make use of them. So basically, that's one thing in the very beginning you need to learn. If you go with a VC, they expect this hockey stick. They're aiming for an exit. They may have not the patience for tech development, but they help you on the sales side for sure. And they also don't put any constraints on you in terms of the technology. So, but it's a matter of the topic you're doing, what would be the right way for you. And of course, strategic is more directed long-term. VC is more directed short-term with an exit. It's about you to distinguish with your founding team which way you want to go. Yeah. And last is sales, because that's something that you don't have on the schedule in the very beginning, but you have to sell your product in the end. So many startups are making an exit before they're actually selling in a large scale. But if you want to do this, you have to prepare it and have to find the right people for it. And having a partner with a large sales work doesn't mean that it's accessible for you, because the salespeople need to understand your product. They need to have the right customers to sell it to. And this is really something that you need to make sure of. Is your investor able basically to bring your product to market if it's a strategic one? So the direct sales network is expensive. You have to build it up globally. So you should work with partners and find the right ones, because that's something that you have to live with. But you have to educate them and make sure that they are understanding the mission, the capabilities of the program, and so on. And especially in tech, you're not selling like apps or something like this. So here, basically, also a little bit of understanding. So technical sales is quite important. And the question is, where do you find these partners? So that's basically a very important topic that you have to address on the sales side. Yeah, what's coming next? So giving you a quick overview here. So at the moment, we have over 70 customers. We have over 250 use cases. So some of the customers are named here: big companies, small companies, integrators, partners. So it's a wide variety of partners or customers that we work with. So the question really here is select the ones. Big companies take a longer time to be convinced of your product, but they are potentially also the ones that make longer business with you. Small companies go easier into this, but they may not have enough cases. So it's a little bit the question to go in between these two, so large scale and also small scale companies. We built up a partner network of 8 partners in the beginning at the moment. And then, of course, a lot of funded projects helped us as well. So we got 14 grants. We worked on the EC side, but also on the national side or local Bavarian side to support us. So there's a lot of opportunities here in order to move forward. So it was a good mix of strategic investment, public grants, and also customers that brought us to the point where we are now. What's coming next? So yeah, we want to scale our software business, still keeping our technology edge. We want to, of course, fight for talents is always a big issue. So we want to retain, attract talents, and sustainable expansion of the team. We want to do more in the recurring revenue models. So that's hard in industrial automation, but especially in lab and warehouse, this is the thing to do. And also, especially in terms of crisis, so we have now nearly 3 years of crisis behind us, to increase the resilience and also the business agility. So this is just a cash flow issue, so that we have more possibilities to put like hardware on stack and so on, to be ready for the future. And as I said, we are a partnership company, so we want to expand and foster our ecosystem and the partnerships. And this brings me to the end of my presentation. You'll find my connection data here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. That's a very useful or insightful presentation about the journey of roboception and journey of you as well as an entrepreneur. Yeah, the floor is open for questions. All the attendees, please feel free to ask your questions. I think you can unmute yourself.
Okay. Can I? Oh, Oliver, you go first.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Michael. That was very, very interesting. I was wondering a little bit, you talked about, of course, the importance of the team in various respects. So I was wondering, I know also of startups who have this or problems associated with what I'm asking here. So, but how do you find these team members? Did you advertise, or did you knew them already, or what the problem of, because of the importance of finding the right ones? So how do you go about this this problem of actually locating them?
Yeah. So in the beginning, there was, I made a bit use of my network, so to say. So knowing some people, being in the research area for a long time, you just know a lot of roboticists and people know people. So that was how we started in the beginning. This brings you to a certain level of team, and then you are looking for specific expertise for specific points, right? So in your network, you're building like a broad set, and then you're looking for specific people which are missing. And on that side, we either advertised, or we also worked with recruiters that were specialized on young professionals. So basically that was a mix of the two, so to say. So especially when the company is young, people don't come with a specific expertise directly to you. So that helps to have a little bit of the recruiting support in the middle. And nowadays it's a bit easier, I would say, as people know us a bit more. And when we are actually putting jobs on the website, on LinkedIn and so on, we are also getting enough applications at the moment. But the hardest part was basically you have your first step, you want to fill the gaps. And this filling of the gaps, there we used external help to get the specific expertise that we were missing at that point.
All right.
Michael, I thought the whole thing was really good. One thing I'm particularly interested in is the difference between your direct customers, you know, the end customers, and your network. And I've got two questions really relate to that. One is, who are you selling to? Are you primarily selling to your partners, or are you primarily selling to the customers, or is it a mix of both? And then the second question is, when you get a sale, to what extent is it a product sale, a project development sale, or a system integration? You know, what are the mixes of that? So
yeah. So the first question, I think at the moment it's more or less 50-50. So 50% go through the partner network, 50% go through us directly. And Roboception has like two target customer groups. So end customers that have the capability to use the technology. So bigger companies that say, I want to have this technology here, and I have certain projects in my company, and you should use this kind of technology. But also on the other hand, like integrators and that we work with that have specific projects, and then they are just requested. So we have actually both. So the end customers that say, I have a specific automation problem. I'm not sure who does it now, but I want to use that technology, and I want to make sure this technology serves the purpose. So that's kind of where we are listed then as suppliers for them. And this the one, and then integrators on the other end. Regarding the second question, so in the beginning it was 90% engineering. I would say. It's 95% before you have your first products that scale, 90% engineering. That was also a big issue in the beginning of COVID because all the engineering jobs dropped and we had a huge decrease in revenue because of that. So we luckily had products there, but since beginning of COVID, we are pushing more the product sales, less the engineering projects, because product sales are easier to do in the pandemic than the projects. So, and some of these, they had more engineering in the beginning, the better our product portfolio was, the smaller is the engineering. So in terms of the business value, I would say 80% product sale, 20% some engineering task around that. And this was a fostered achievement by the changing market. So the engineering gives you a longer, let's say, security, but only if the market is there. It broke away, and then we had to push more on the product side. And yeah, this is how we handled it. And now I'm happy to have more products. So, but could have done it also a different way.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have a question. I keep coming across founders who are more of the innovators of the technology, who launch the technology into a product and a company as a spin-out like yourself. So later on, I see them transitioning into more of a technology role, or understanding the business aspects of it, or the commercialization aspects of the product can be challenging for some of them, maybe not all. Have you faced such situation where you would have rather preferred being on the technical side than on the commercial or business side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is actually a transition that is sometimes hard. And also when I was still working at DLR on the technical side, I had the possibility to do a lot of tech transfer projects. So I was quite early connected to the business world of technology and what it means to bring technology to market. So if you have no experience in tech transfer and have not done this before, I think it's hard to understand the customer needs just from the technology standpoint. So this experience before at DLR helped me a lot to move into that transition. Otherwise, this would have been very hard. So coming from a technical field, you have to understand, as a CEO, you're also a salesperson. You have to be a salesperson. And this is basically something that this transformation has to be done, guided, or you need help in that if you have not the experience before. I think a pure technical background helps to understand complex scenarios, but doesn't help you to understand the customer. So that's a transition I had to make. And I also had some support on that. So I did some coaching on that, and I did some other things that helped me on that way. So yeah, but it's very important. If you don't do this, you don't understand your customer. Yeah,
that's great. Thank you. Any more questions from the attendees?
I find, Michael, I found your kind of like conceptualization of this strategic versus more capital-oriented investor very interesting, and your explanation of your considerations there. I was still curious, maybe a bit into how, maybe because you were saying this, that there's maybe a long-term and a short-term difference, but could you maybe elaborate on some of the some other differences that there might be? I was particularly thinking of what about if some of the strategic investors are maybe looked upon as competitors in with some of the other partners or in the market that you would want to approach. How do you handle such a situation when a strategic investor is kind of like a major part of your cap table?
Yeah, so that's an important aspect. So I mean, generally speaking, an investor, either strategic or financial, should be more than just money. So there has to be an additional benefit. So on the VC side, it can be the network, it can be access to certain people that you don't meet yourself. So basically it's important. It's not about only the money. So your investor is part of your company, so he should bring money plus X. And the question is the plus X, what is that you need most? If you need connections and so on, of course, a VC can help you. Usually when you go into strategic, and that was also our thinking in the beginning, was having access to a sales team. I mean, KUKA has a global sales team that we could use once we have the product ready. That was our initial thought behind that. But the second thing that we didn't consider in the beginning was the sales team of KUKA is enabled to sell robot arms. They are not enabled to sell vision systems. So there is a huge sales network, but it doesn't have any connection to your product. So, and you, of course, each big company has a not invented here problem that you're facing the same way if you're a startup there or if you're someone else. Each company thinks they can do everything themselves. So, and this is why the key learning for me is going into a strategic investment is to have someone in the company, a translator, moderator, that basically helps you to bridge that gap. So that basically makes sure that the sales team gets the right information they need in order to be successful what you're providing. To basically manage also the strategic interests and so on. If you're working with a strategic investor that opens the sales channel for you with a team that is unable to sell your product, you're just basically wasting time with them. So, and I think that's the important thing that I learned. I didn't have that in the beginning. For me, it was a tough job to find the people in the company that I have to talk to basically make sure that it's running smoothly. But this is something that you need to keep in mind. So the benefit of a strategic investor only exploits if there's a translator in the company that helps you to make use of the network. In terms of competition, that's a big issue, of course. So you have to, of course, a strategic investor wants to own stuff, right? And in order to develop a company, that's potentially not the best thing to do. Because in the end, you want to be an independent company making business with your investor, but also others. And that's obvious a tough fight. It has been the same for us. So we had exclusivities in the beginning that we could remove over time. Now we are more or less completely free, but it was a discussion and a process. And this process has to be done. So when you decide for a strategic investor, make sure that you know the strategic goals. And talk about that very openly in the very beginning, because it can either foster or kill your business, depending on how they act, so to say. Yeah.
No, very interesting. Thank you.
I might have another question.
Sure.
Having been at startups and scale-ups who are working on technologies that are at a lower technology level, let us say TRL 5, 6, and they have to bring them to a commercially launchable technology readiness level. It's a fine balance between having that research kind of development funding as well as targeting the development and commercialization route. In my experience, that's a very fine balance and really hard to strike. So I saw that you were presenting about 14 grants on which you're working, and also you're parallelly supplying to customers and distribution partners, etc. How did you manage, or how do you manage it now and moving forward as well, if you're still involved in funded projects?
Yeah, so I think from the public funded project was for us already on the lower levels, so that we are actually either we were getting ideas out of that and had the possibilities to build some prototypes out of that, so that the direct, let's say, commercialization, it was just helping us to check on the technologies and the new things, and also building networks. I mean, that's another aspect of the grants, to have the network to do the low-level technology things. Nowadays, more projects have precise and concrete use cases, so it makes it a bit easier to go higher up. But still, from what comes out of a project till you have something in production running, there's still like 1 to 2 years sometimes to go, just because the reality outside is different. So you have to have something like supporting the technology. You have to think about what happens if things break and the customer asks us to help them. So all these ideas of supporting a product is not part of any of the projects I've been with. So all these things that you have to do later to maintain, support, and make the customer happy, that is something that you have to put on top. And if you get a result from a research project that is not maintainable and not supportable, then don't bring it to market. Because sometimes the ideas get simpler when they go to market and you're focusing more. So that's something that I learned. So you get from the grants, you get the initial bounds, you have the idea, you see a bit on the market, you can foster the idea, you bring it to a demonstrator even, but from there to something that's running 24/7 in production, you have to go specifically. And this is the thing that, that comes afterwards. But it helps you to push the idea to that. If the mindset is going to innovation, that's far above research, so to say. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good. Any more questions from the participants? We can't hear you, Jeff, somehow. No?
Okay.
Do you want to type in your question maybe in the chat? Maybe while Jeff is typing, the last time we had Cleo from Coalescent Mobile Robotics. Oh yeah, there you go. Do you want to carry on with your question, Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, I got a couple, but I'll restrict it to one. Basically, you talked about moving into 2 new domains. I just wondered how difficult that was and what particular problems that might have actually presented you as a small company.
Mm-hmm. So I think the key issues behind that is to understand the use cases from these domains. So when you talk about industrial automation, it's all about accuracy, specific placement, and so on. It is all about quality, so to say. When you go to warehouse automation, it's mostly about speed, so to say, right? And when you go to lab automation, it's a bit of both. So, and the challenge was to find the right partner company use case that we start with. Because when you start in the beginning there, you see a million use cases and most of them are not possible for you. The question is, how do you find the entry into that with potentially something that you already have? So you basically have a product, you adapt it a little bit so that it fits to the new market, and then you can gain experience. And I think this exploratory phase in a new market for a company is very important. You have to have the time for that. So you can't do this when you're in the middle of other projects. So you should take the time and explore. So finding resources for new markets. And this is also why at the moment we're trying to scale, we need additional money for that. So going into a new domain is not something that works out of the box. So you first have to spend money to get money. And if you don't get it from your revenues, you have to get it from an investor. Just going into a new domain without anything doesn't work, I would say. It's a pre-financing of a domain always.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, I agree entirely on that.
Yeah, I think I was going through the ANSOF matrix. If you have come across that, like existing products, new products, existing markets, new markets. So if you're jumping into that quadrant of new market and new product, and that's it's a challenge. Yeah, ideally going on kind of proof of concept would be a good route in that side.
And then make sure that from the proof of concept you can move on, because proof of concept just is the first step, so to say. And don't do too many of them, but the right ones.
Any more questions? Okay, so maybe I can shoot off one of my questions about, I was mentioning about the previous webinar with Leonard Martin from Coalescent Mobile Robotics. She was the guest speaker last time. So when we were asking questions about, yes, usually when you talk to entrepreneurs, they'll present about what's the future for the company that they have co-founded or leading right now. So what is the future of you as an entrepreneur? What do you look yourself as moving down the line, maybe in the next 3 years, 5 years? So
yeah, so I think there's two things that I strive for. So one is now that we have the focus on the technology edge, so to say, that's something I'd like to foster, and also to build the ecosystem around it. For me personally, I like a lot the strategic part of things. So there's definitely some help on the operations side. So I like to go a bit more out of the operations, more in the strategics and higher level management things. So at the moment, I'm still too much involved in everything. So that has to change, because it's also driving you crazy at some point. So basically build the team in a way that you're not the single point of failure in the company. So that's, I think, one thing that needs to be done in the scale-up process. And that's the goal for the next couple of years. And also then focusing on my strengths, which is for sure the strategic side and the development side of things in terms of the business, in terms of what is the right technology and so on, to focus a bit on that and to build the team in the sense that this is possible. Besides the technological and the developments I was just showing. So that's for me personally the goal with Roboception.
That's great, thank you. Any more questions from the floor?
Okay.
Yeah,
if I could.
Go on.
Thank you, Michael. I was just curious. I wanted to loop back a little bit to this strategic investor thing, because for many people, maybe this VC road is the most commonly known or described in many cases. So, and then, you know, there will be a model for how to get, or at least some ideas about how to get those investments while you develop the companies, and, you know, the funding routes each has name and stuff like that. But is it possible to kind of like also give kind of like an idea or an approach to how to build such a strategic relationship with a potential strategic investor? Do you talk to several, or do you talk to them first and then found the company, or is there kind of like some do's and don'ts for that?
Yeah. So I think in that case, network is somehow important. So I think finding a strategic investor without any background is quite hard, because there needs to be a lot of trust. So in between the strategic side and also the founding side. So it's something that you have to build, and you need to know people. And also strategic investors, they don't actively, or some of them look for investments, but not as actively as VCs do. So you will have much less interaction with them. So if you're looking for VCs, you're getting 20 or 30 things, and then you basically have it or not. On the strategic side is way less. And also it has to be somehow related to what you're doing and your product and how it looks like. And this is something that is not so specific in the beginning. So finding the right match on the strategic side is more difficult. And this usually goes through connections. So knowing people, also talking to people that are well connected. So if you're coming from a university, you have a tech office or something like this, they know companies and they can introduce you. So a lot of stuff is happening through introduction. So in that case, if you have like a tech person that is here for tech transfer in university or so, talk to them. Do they have connections to corporates? Use that connection to get into that. Because usually at the strategic side, you don't find the right person to decide on that in the beginning. So you have to find your champion in the company that speaks for you for this investment. So VC is very easy. You talk to a counselor, they look at the numbers, they decide. Strategic, you have to find the person who makes the decision and convince that person. And it's not someone you meet in the first meeting. So this is a bit the process here. So the relationship is more long-term, I would say, but it's also harder to establish in the beginning if you don't have the right connections. And yeah, this is also where I would say you need to know people to be able to do this. Yeah.
Thanks.
I would also add there that you've got to be wary in that in some of the technical enthusiasts in companies, because they're not always the ones that are able to follow up with the finance, etc.
Yeah, and you spend a lot of times discussion with them without reaching the one that's making the decision. So then you're 3 months in discussion, and in the end, they say it was nice talking to you. But we never will make an investment, or I don't even know if we can. So this is why finding your champion in the company, this is the task that is supporting you and speaking for you. Because in a company, there's always people that say that's not the right thing. And these people have to defend you in the decisions. Otherwise, it will not work. Yeah. Very similar to sales. So it was the same thing. So strategic investors and sales process is very similar, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Michael, for all the insights. And I think we are coming to the close of the webinar time. So maybe once more, if Oliver can mention about the events that are upcoming at ERF 22, and also Jeff usually puts forward a workshop as well in case he did. If you both can mention those, we can say thank you and close. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Radhika. Yeah, so I just wanted to do a little bit of promotion for the Entrepreneurship Award at ERF. So ERF is next time in Odense in March, and as usual, we will be hosting an Entrepreneurship Award workshop and giving away an award for the best robotics entrepreneur of the year in Europe. And everyone who knows everyone or was working in a startup themselves is very encouraged to look into this. The call for participants will be in the official channels and in LinkedIn, and you can find it on the euRobotics and also on the ERF website in the near future. So look out for that.